My name is William Goff, and my time for my impromptu speech will begin right now. "What's your best discovery?" asked the mole. "That I am enough as I am," said the boy. New York Times best-selling author Jim Collins once stated, "Good is the enemy of great." I believe that if we look at this beautiful quote today and see that this little boy was inspired to realize that he can be enough that he needs just the way he is, and that he doesn't have to meet some societal standard of beauty or education or some way of being cool and fitting in with the cool kids, we can look at this child and be inspired by someone that's probably so far younger than us listening to this speech today. But we have to look at what Jim Collins said. He said something very important. And it's emphasizing the fact that when we look around at problems in our society, it's not always what's bad that hurts us the most, but it's what's good. Because good, at the end of the day, ends up being the enemy of great. When you look through American history, or even the history of probably your own life, you see that most problems don't stem from when there actually is something bad happening, but when you look at a situation and see that you could do better and decide not to. We've seen this with the rights of so many people in our country, and it's only recently that we're starting to be activists about it and try to stand up to be a greater United States, and not just the good United States that we've known. So let's analyze this quote today with my 3 points. My first point is, what does this quote mean? My second point is why this quote could be dangerous, and my third point is how we should apply this quote to our lives today. Now, my first point is backed up by some sad statistics as I'm bringing you today. According to mentalhealthamerica.com, they tell us that 9.7% of the United States youth have severe or major depression. Now that's just severe or major, and that's also just the youth. But since it's the little boy that we're looking at today in this quote, I thought we would focus on the youth. When we have millions and millions of children in our country today, we see that there are so many needs that they have that get overlooked just because they're children. Children can be sad too, and they can deal with severe depression even at their young age. And in 2018, as a whole, we saw 1.4 million suicide attempts in our nation. That left us with 480,000 suicides that actually were attempted and followed through with, sadly. Now, when you look at the millions of Americans in our society today, that number gets swallowed up by the large amount of people living in our nation. But we saw that actually brought it to be the second largest death causer in America in 2018. So when millions of Americans are dealing with depression, and they're dealing with something that is hurting them not externally, that you wouldn't be able to tell from looking at somebody, but something that's happening inside of them, something that makes them feel inadequate because they look at all the standards set for them, we realize that 9.7% of the youth needs something to believe in, something to make them happier. And so this quote kind of outlines that. We see that this little boy, among the rest of the youth, has seen that he can be enough just the way he is. And that should be something that is applied even in our nation today. So I believe that is what this quote means. It means that among the thousands of standards that are set for us, grade standards, beauty standards, religion standards, every standard that we see that we haven't set for ourselves, we can be enough for ourselves without having to measure up. But this leads me to my second point. Why could this quote, among all the good things, actually be dangerous? Well, English politician Edmund Burke once stated, "All it takes for evil to prosper is for good men to remain silent." I believe that when you look at our personal lives, this is absolutely a great quote from this book to apply. That we can be enough for ourselves, but this should not apply when we're looking how we can help others around us, and how we can help our nation grow as a whole. We saw that over the course of American history, there is one pattern that you have seen in almost every time period that has existed. Protest of some sort. Even before our nation was made, from the people that were going to become our nation, they did not like what was going on, they saw that we could be better, and they made it so. We've seen this through the Civil Rights Movement. We've seen this through so many other movements throughout the history of the United States. Americans are not okay with settling for good. But now recently, we see that since we have so many things that are automated, so many things doing all of our jobs for ourselves, and we can sit back and relax and not have to necessarily fight for our freedoms, we see that a lot of people go unheard. And a lot of people live in a life in our nation that is set to be good when we could be great. So we must apply this quote to our personal lives and be content with how we're living out to our own standards. But when it comes to a government, or when it comes to helping the rights of others around us who aren't being voiced and aren't being heard, we absolutely cannot let this quote guide our society. Because like Jim Collins said before, good is the enemy of great. So when we are applying this to our society, we simply cannot let ourselves fall into what this little boy has found. We cannot let ourselves settle for good when we could be great. So that leads me to my third point today. How should we apply this to our lives? Well, like I said before, recapping today, when it comes to personal standards, it absolutely is something that children in America and even adults can apply to their lives. Because when we feel inadequate or when other people are telling us we're not good enough, that's absolutely not the truth. We can look around and see that in a free nation, in a nation of opportunity, we don't have to take every opportunity we see to measure up to our parents' standards or some standard that you haven't set for yourself. We can be good enough for ourselves. And we can listen to quotes like Jim Collins and be the great for ourselves. We don't have to be okay with how we are and say that we're settling for good. If how you are in your personal life is great, then that's how you should be for yourself. But also, to recap my second point, in this third point, how should we apply this to our lives when it comes to other people? Well, Oliver Wendell Holmes Jr. once stated, "Your right to swing your fist ends at the tip of my nose." And I believe that when becoming okay with how we are personally, we must look around to the rights and needs of others and see that we can't let ourselves settle for good. We as a nation must push to represent everyone, to give everyone equal chance that we have, to give everyone that chance that we've grown up with knowing that we had our whole life. So no, we can't listen to this quote today. And while it is a beautiful quote and it sounds great, simply my third point is telling us that while we can apply it in some circumstances, we absolutely should not let it guide our lives. Former President Barack Obama once stated, "When seeking change, we can't wait for some other person, time, or thing to save us from our circumstances." He said that we are the ones we've been waiting for, and we, right now, are the change that we seek. If we are truly going to improve our society and not let good become the enemy of our great, we must be the ones that we're waiting for, and we must be the change that we seek. Thank you.